right. Well, thanks for listening. I'm a bit surprised actually that people actually want to hear about form validation because it's not really a very exciting topic. I rather think it's a quite boring and tedious topic, and that's why I want to talk about it, because every time I have to do it, it gets on my nerves. And yesterday, while Wilhelm and Dmitry had their talk about the headless Neos with Node in between, I was thinking, because I'm doing that for a customer project right now, we could actually make this easier. Because the issue with form validation is not only that it's boring and repetitive, but if you want to have proper usability, you're doing it twice, basically. You do it once in the back end to make sure that your data gets in as you want it and everything is nice and validated. And the second time you do it in the front end to give your user direct feedback about their entries and, for example, check if a username is already given or whatever you're doing. So I thought, why don't we just, and it's really just an idea at this point, why don't we just expose the stuff that we already defined in the back end, such as a string length validator on a property, to the front end? We have all the information we need. Basically everything that, or the only thing that you need is the form. And what you could then do is, well, let me just explain my example a little bit better. We have a form in the browser that gets rendered by our form helper. And we have a property in it that's called maybe email. And on the other side, we have an entity that this form gets, or basically creates. So we defined our validations on it already. And then what we can just add is, well, basically an endpoint that generated JavaScript talks to in the browser and sends the whatever the user entered to the server. That would be one way to do it, or even replicate the check in the front end. That would be the other way to do it, in order to give the user direct feedback about what happened. Was that understandable? It's really just an idea at this point, just something I wanted to throw out there and see if there's anybody interested or anybody thinks that sounds interesting, I could use it. It would make basically front-end validation very, very easy, because you just could flip the switch and say, I want this form to be validated in the front end directly, and then Flow would generate all the necessary JavaScript and do all the necessary checking based on everything that's already defined in the back end that we exposed via some sort of validation API endpoint. So who thinks this is a terrible idea and it will never work? Good. Who thinks that sounds interesting and you could probably use it in some way or other? Cool. Okay, so maybe there's some value in that. Really, again, it's just an idea at this point, so if anybody would be interested to start a prototype with me or something like that, then get in touch. Also, of course, there's still some stuff to do. You have to think about which validation groups do you want to perform the validation for. Of course, you wouldn't want to execute the persistence validation. Entity validation is probably also not very easy to do, because you would have to send a completed entity, and that sort of goes against the concept of checking entries directly after the user did something. So there are still a few problems and things to think about, but I think the general idea could be valuable.